Leadership has an interesting mix of necessary ingredients. And sometimes those ingredients butt heads with the practicality of running a business that's going to be successful. I think the first time anyone puts $1 million in the pocket is probably a day that you'll never forget. Oh my God, it started with nothing.
What was the very first spark that made you want to build your own company instead of working for someone else?
If you want to build a business, there's only two ways to go. You follow demand and make it better, what's ever been serving that demand, or you create demand and convince them to use it.
What was the most amount of money you've made in a single year from one company? How did you actually pull that off? Welcome to Built to Scale, the podcast where vision meets action. I'm your host, Quinn Vincent Chills, founder of Master Roofing, and I'm here to pull back the curtain on building world-class teams, scaling companies, and turning bold ideas into unstoppable momentum. Let's get to work. Today on Built to Scale, we've got an absolute powerhouse in the world of business and entrepreneurship. My guest is Robin Richards, a serial entrepreneur, startup investor, and philanthropist who's built, scaled, and sold companies across multiple industries for decades. Robin was the founding president of mp3.com, the managing director at tickets.com, and later served as CEO at Vivendi, Universal Net USA. He went on to found leading game-changing companies like internships.com, CareerArc, Notification Technologies, and Lexi International. He's also been deeply involved in private equity and has sold businesses in high-stakes transactions, the most entrepreneurs dream about. Today, Robin is here as the co-founder and executive chairman of localroofs.com and sits on boards of companies shaping the future of tech, housing, and recruitment. Beyond business, he's the founder of the Chase Foundation, which supports families and children facing cancer. He's been honored at Inc. Magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Customer Interaction Solutions Magazine, Lava Award for Best M&A. This guy has seen it all, from scrappy startups to billion-dollar exits, from failures that nearly broke him to scaling companies that shape entire industries. Robin, welcome to the show. I'm fired up for this one because today you're going to unpack the step-by-step roadmap of how you've built, scaled, sold, and invested in businesses, and what young entrepreneurs need to know if they want to follow the same path.
Thank you, Quinn. It's great to be with you, that's for sure. We've known one another for a while, and if it doesn't sound too hokey, I'm very, very proud of your journey and where you've come, because you've certainly put the work in, which is most important, had the optimism, and produced a company that's grown real fast. So we're real proud.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Seriously. It means a lot coming from you.
Thanks.
So take us back. What was the very first spark that made you want to build your own company instead of working for someone else?
You know, that I think dreamers have a hard time working in really structured, large environments. When you come out of college, everybody wants to push you towards a large, structured environment. So I was living in Detroit, and I said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I've got to go start my own. So I came to California, and I think sometimes too, if you don't have a particular skill that's really marketable at the time you're coming out of college, you get forced to move into directions that you take to. And so it might have been little bit of luck, but I've actually never, other than after I sold the company, I've never worked for anybody. My name's been on pretty much every check I've ever had.
So you said you grew up in Detroit?
I did. Yeah.
So what made you move down here?
There was just nothing for me in Detroit, right? My family was not, didn't have much money.
Okay.
And so no network. And I was the first person in the family to go to college. So I was either going to go work for one of my buddies' family's companies, or I was going to go set my own path, and I didn't see myself going to work for one of my buddies. So I headed out to California, and landed, knew no one. Two guys helped take me out here, knew absolutely no one. And had a little hiccup in Vegas. We ran out of money and finally got to LA and started a video game business as my first business, coin operated.
What did mom and dad do back in Detroit?
Mom was a homemaker, right? That's what she did.
Nice.
Right. And my dad was a printer.
Okay.
So a union guy, blue collar guy.
Nice.
Right.
So when you ended up here, you said the video game company, what did those first 6 months of the company actually look like?
Oh, I think the first 3 or 4 months of every company looks incredibly optimistic.
Right.
Right. And then you got to meet payroll. And then
so you already had employees 3 months in?
I had one.
Okay.
3 months in.
Wow.
Right. And by 3 years in, I had 500. And by 6 years in, I had 1,500. And then we sold it, I think, in the 7th or 8th year when we had 1,700 people. So it's, I'm sorry, that was not the video game. That was telemarketing, Lexi International.
That was after?
Yeah. The video game one, we just built it up. We deaggregated, part of either build a better mousetrap, right?
What does that mean?
I mean, there's a mousetrap. It does a great job. If you want to build a business, there's only 2 ways to go. You follow demand and make it better, what's ever been serving that demand, or you create demand and convince them to use it. Only 2 ways to go. So my first business was video games. I followed demand and made a better business model.
Okay.
At the time, the coin-operated games were in arcades.
Right.
I said, why do they have to be in arcades? I looked across the street from the arcade in Hollywood, and there was a 7-Eleven, and I would go there late at night to get my 50-cent hot dog and Coke. And one night I started counting the number of people coming into the 7-Eleven. The next night I went across the street and counted the people that went into the arcade, and they were within 10% of one another. So I went to the owner of the 7-Eleven, guy that had a big impact, Joe Saraceno. I hope he's still alive. I haven't talked to him in years, but had a big impact on me and took a chance when 100% of video games were in arcades. I said, if we put 2 video games here, I'll bet you, given your foot traffic, it'll be the number one, income producing per square foot in your store. And I'll give you 50% of the take. He said, let's try it. We figured out I had a partner, right? My partner happened to be the distributor of the coin-operated video games after going to his office probably 14 days in a row without him seeing me until he agreed to see me.
So you kept showing up at this guy's office?
Every single day, 4 or 5 hours, every single day.
Just wait there for him, staking him out.
I'm sorry, you can't have an appointment, sir. And finally the guy says to me, Mr. Bettleman, God rest his soul, what a man. He said to me, if I see you, will you never come back? I said, if you see me, we'll be partners. And we were partners. And
how did you convince? How old were you?
I was 22, right? I said, I just know you'll make more money if you allow these games and start to be the promoter of these games going into foot traffic as opposed to putting all the games in one place and making the foot traffic come to you. I said, and I have a 7-Eleven that's going to try it for us. I have no money. If you would give me 2 video games, I'll give you all the money from the video games till I pay you back. He said, let's try it. And lo and behold, we had 1,600 video games a few years later, and he bought me out, and that was my first exit.
How did you exit that one? Did he just buy it? Like, how did you work
yeah,
out like the value?
You learn a lot of lessons when you first
sure.
start, right? And they're almost all bad,
yeah.
right? That you'll never do again.
Yeah.
So I didn't, we would keep track of how much I owed him. we'd keep track of how much I paid him.
Because he bought the machines, right?
Well, he owned the machines. He was a distributor.
Got it. Okay.
So he would give me a machine and
you
deliver.
went to he's the video game guy.
Yeah.
Got
he was
it.
the video. He was Los Angeles, still is probably, Los Angeles' biggest distributor.
Got it. So you went to because I wasn't piecing all together. So the 7-Eleven guy was going to be the customer that you were going to do it. And then you said, I'm going to go straight to the distributor and I'm going to stake him out, make him understand my idea.
Attempt to convince him that my vision was valid and that it wouldn't cost him a lot to test it, because if it was valid, he would make a real lot. And that's what we did. And video games went from that time, which was 1980, probably 1980, right? Video 80, maybe 81. That at that time, video games were never deaggregated from arcades. So it created an unbelievable opportunity, a tsunami of opportunity, actually, because now you didn't have to have the capital to build a big arcade. If you could scrape together $3,000, $4,000, you could put them in a liquor store. So his customer count grew astronomically after that. And the distribution of video games grew astronomically after that as well.
What did your friends and family at the time say when you told them your plan?
I probably didn't tell them my plan. I probably just did my plan, right? Because I knew nothing about video games, so I couldn't. Other than I liked them, I probably couldn't convince anybody, and I had never been in business, so I just said I'll keep my head down, and I'll tell everybody how good it was if it became good.
At what point in like your business journey did you say like I can't do this alone? I need a team. And then do you remember who that first hire was?
Still coming up.
Leadership has an interesting mix of necessary ingredients. And sometimes those ingredients butt heads with the practicality of running a business that's going to be successful. I think the first time anyone puts $1 million in the pot is probably a day that you'll never forget. Oh my God, it started with nothing.
SoCal homeowners, why pay $15,000, $20,000, or even $30,000 for a new roof when instead you can get a new roof for only less than $100 per month? Here at Master Roofing, we serve homeowners with high quality roofs with no hefty upfront costs. So give your house the roof it deserves with zero down and low monthly payments. Why wait? Click the link below to get you a roof you deserve for payments you can afford.
Yeah, it was my first understanding was that a partner's a good thing.
Okay.
All right. It's hard to deal with it because you split your equity so much.
Mm-hmm.
But if a partner can help you with your blind spots, right, and you can concentrate more on what you're good at, which at the time when I was young, what I was good at was revenue, right? Thinking of the
sales,
thinking of the deal and going to put it out in the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that by definition meant, especially when you're 22, 23, 24 years old, by definition means you don't have a background in anything else. So I found a man, God rest his soul, Ron Davis, unbelievable guy, who backed me. And he gave me $100,000 to take 51% of my company. And anybody that's ever run a company knows that before you have capital, it is one difficult thing to do. It's the hardest run anybody can ever make, being an entrepreneur without a lot of capital, right? The second hardest is being an entrepreneur with enough capital but no team. You're going to fail both of those way more often than not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the hardest thing I've ever done, I think, is be an entrepreneur, and I've done it, 14 times now. 10, 11 exits, 5, 6 industries. So what I found is nothing's really very different. Operate businesses the way you're supposed to operate businesses. If you're an entrepreneur and you see that niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, and you go for it, and you apply solid business principles, you can do pretty well.
So when you think of first hire, you're thinking of my partners. When I started to get those,
my partners, I like to get older partners at the time. I always liked older partners in the beginning.
For the experience and the
for the
wisdom.
experience, they've been through it. A lot of older people really like to help younger people, right? And when you're in your 20s, people like to help you. Successful people.
That's very true.
Get a lot of juice out of helping a young guy or gal that's going to be an entrepreneur. Open their Rolodex. Networks is how you grow. You have to understand how to build networks in life, and partners help you build networks. And networks are the most valuable thing you can.
What was the hardest lesson that you learned about firing the wrong person too late?
Oh, leadership has an interesting mix of necessary ingredients. And sometimes those ingredients butt heads with the practicality of running a business that's going to be successful. Empathy is an important ingredient for a leader, right? Loyalty is an important ingredient for a leader, right? Obviously, skill and motivation are both important. But sometimes loyalty and empathy run up against decisions, and you wait too long to make them.
What do you mean?
What if you like somebody and they just can't cut it, and you've known them a while?
It's tough.
If you have investors, or you have a family, or you have other employees, you have an affirmative obligation to be the strongest person in the room. They are counting on you with their paycheck and for their families. And if you're not strong enough to do the hard things when the hard things are required, you're no good. You will fail eventually. And so I always just looked at it, tried to look at it objectively. Early in my career, I probably was late in doing what needed to be done. Later in my career, for the vast majority of my career, I became timely, right? Probably late now in my career, I'm a little late again, right? Because
giving people more grace.
I think depending on your level of success, you can afford to sometimes.
You want to see if bet on it a little longer, see if it will pan out.
My observation is anytime you think somebody can't make it with you, I don't know the percentage, let's call it 90 because it's real high. At some point, they don't make it. Your instincts are so powerful when you're an entrepreneur that when your gut tells you that person's just they're not going to do it. Your empathy takes you back to help them do it. Your loyalty takes you back to help them do it a long period of time. And at the end of the day, they don't do it. Trust your gut, trust your instinct, and trust it fast.
So for me personally, like building a business, I'm noticing like turnover as I'm starting to build a team. Like some make it, some don't, right? There's some that stick with it, some don't. You said like 90% when it's like your instinct, they can't cut it for the long run. Like when you say that, like is it normal for a business? Is it take time for a business to start to have its real core people? Is turnover normal?
I mean, a business, an entrepreneur, depending on their skill set,
right?
It's always nice to have an older chairman. If you're a young entrepreneur that doesn't meddle a lot, right? But gives you the appropriate amount of advice. It's essential to get a good finance person that can do analytics, can help create the reports for gross margin by product category, for net margins, for product costs, all the things required for you to make sound decisions, right? So my first hire is always some very skilled, and they get a fair amount of equity, very skilled finance person, CFO.
And you're giving them a salary and part of the profit of the business, right?
Not profit. I'm giving them a salary
and And equity?
And equity.
Equity is not part of the profit? How does that work? I guess.
Wow. Okay. Let's do that one.
Yeah.
Equity is ownership.
Okay.
Just because you own a company doesn't mean you get profit.
Okay.
But you might own all the equity, or you might have 2 or 3 shareholders. It doesn't mean that company is profitable. It just means you own the ownership. You own the stock.
So in the event that one day you can be bought out from your stock, you could, if the company sells,
people that own
can
stock, they make an outsized return on the equity you gave them. Profit sharing is a different deal. Profit sharing is not a smart thing to do, right? Because profit sharing looks like expense on the income statement.
And it affects your EBITDA, right?
It affects your EBITDA, right? So profit sharing in the absence of equity is nothing more, nothing less than expense, right?
So why would you give the finance, like just say an example, roofing company, right? Like if you're going to, let's say, come in here as a chairman, right? And you're like, okay, you need to get this finance person and give them X equity and this salary.
Well, if you have a finance person that's working for you that did not want equity, you got to ask yourself how far they can take you.
Because the purpose of giving them the equity is what?
Well, the purpose of equity is, in the beginning, the company's valuation is low. By definition. Day one, it's probably worth 0.
Right.
Right? When you issue the equity to somebody, you issue it at a certain valuation. So if I have 1% of $1 million, that's $10,000. If we build that company to be worth $50 million, that person made 50 times $10,000.
So they have skin in the game. It gives them like an incentive of like to
Don't
put
get
more
tired.
into.
We tapped you to be an owner, right? Don't get tired.
And they're not going to.
Don't look the other way. So you got to understand people that like money. You got to understand people that value their family. You've got to understand people that are going to work really hard to make something happen, because as anybody that's ever known or owned a business knows, there's nothing tougher than a small businessman.
I agree. I think that like even in just my experience so far, that it's like you have everything kind of resting on your shoulders and you have to make a lot of big decisions and things are moving and you need to step in and bring the right people in. And I guess, how do you know how to promote from within versus like to hire externally?
Well, your culture appreciates internal promotion. Your company may or may not agree with that, so to speak, right? Just because someone's a faithful, good worker and has been around a long time, if they haven't done the hard work to make themselves better, you don't promote because of seniority or longevity. You promote for skill. If you have somebody internally that you've been underutilizing, shame on you, and they've stepped up and they've said, I don't mean you, you know what I mean. And they've stepped up and they said, I want to go higher, right? And you, as a CEO, better figure out what it is you want from them and figure out how to measure them and give them a little run at it. 90 days, 100 days. And if they can do it, you'll know it. If they can't, and they're a work in progress, you'll know it. And everybody else that works for you is relying on you to make those decisions and make them quick. Because small companies, people talk about the IP, the intellectual property of a small company, right? It might be your domination in an area, your roofing domination in a given little area. It might be you have the best roofers or the best plumbers or the best electricians around and nobody leaves you and they really work well. It might be because you're well financed. There's all kinds of reasons that I believe you have to choose, right? And in a way that serves the people that give you their time, chose to follow you. You owe them, and you owe them big. And that means you owe them respect. That means you owe them promotion. That means you owe getting rid of them or the weak people. You owe everybody that gives you their time the best chance at stability and the best chance at victory you can possibly do. And you can't make stability and victory ever be your fault. Right? Not with your, it's got to be market fault. It can't be because you were too lazy. It can't be because you didn't figure out how to get funded. Well, if you can't figure out how to get funded, you're not a good entrepreneur. Right? It can't be because you have bad employees. Those are all excuses, and I saw that on your wall. There are no excuses downstairs, right? There's no excuses when you're at the top. It's a very lonely place to live, right? But there are no excuses, and your obligation is overwhelming. You've got people's family to make sure stay stable.
If you feel comfortable sharing, like, what was the most amount of money you've made in a single year from one company, and how did you actually pull that off?
I've sold 14 companies, so I'm not comfortable giving you numbers. We've sold with investors. We've sold over $1 billion worth of companies. I think the first time anyone puts $1 million in the pocket, in the bank, is probably a day that you'll never forget. Right? Like, oh my God, I started with nothing. I've put $1 million in the bank. After that, markets reward good work. Markets reward entrepreneurs that understand that your IP that we were talking about a minute earlier is speed. Entrepreneurs have to go fast, which means they don't have the luxury of large companies analyzing everything, thinking through everything, checking with 16 people to go everything because you got the money to hang out. You got the money to not make a mistake. Entrepreneurs, they don't have enough money. They can't compete with the big guys. So their decisiveness, which translates to speed, in my mind, is their IP. It's as good as it gets.
Do you remember your first $1 million in the bank that was like profit and was yours, and that experience?
Yes, of course.
What do you remember when you think about that?
I think what you remember most is how hard it was.
How old were you?
My first $1 million in the bank in my 30s, right? And it was rewarding, right?
Yeah.
It's just rewarding. And you said, damn, all these 15-hour days paid off. And then hopefully you've been good about attending events and making networks and constantly giving. Always had a philosophy. Every relationship you have that's of value, right? Try and make sure you give to them more than they give to you. Make them want to catch up, right?
Mm.
Too many people spend too much time in business with people that can't help them, right? I'm sure you got a lot of friends. I'm sure most people have a lot of friends. Have good friends. Help your friends. In business, you only have your time and your speed. Help those that can help you. You'll build your network. Your network will deliver for you all you.
Do you remember what your first big scale move you made that felt terrifying, but it changed everything?
Yeah, it was with a company called Lexi International. It was the first B2B Dun & Bradstreet numbered telemarketing company in America. There was 4 or 5 B2C that had just started that were phenomenally successful. And I had the first B2B. We did appointment setting, and it was going really good, right? And I had about 10 telemarketers, and AT&T had just broken up. So they wanted to win back all of the customers that they had lost to MCI at the time. So they hired outsourced telemarketing companies to go do that work. They had heard of us, asked us if we would like to participate. We did, but it required that I grow by 50 people. So I had to bet the pink slip. I had to leave the business. Because
How did you figure out you needed 50 more people?
Because I knew what the average per win back, if you're calling somebody to say switch from MCI back to AT&T, I knew how many they could do in a 6-hour shift.
Figured out like how many people, how many
So
leads,
said,
how
right,
many
I
close.
have this much, I have this much, I'll have this much fall out, this how many people I need to service this contract.
Got it.
Right? And so you hire them. Some stick, some don't. The first couple of months when you decide that you got to go for it, you're always a little bit behind the 8 ball because everybody you hire doesn't work out. And then you're a little bit behind the financial 8 ball, and then it catches up. And then things start looking great. And you add stuff to make sure you never lose that customer, like customer service, which is critical, and even more critical today when everybody can weigh in. Lots of people. Customer service has now become, in my mind, customer service and analytics has now become as important as finance in a business.
How do you create great customer service in a business? How did you do it in that business?
Well, you demand that people do it right that work with you, right? There is an esprit de corps, a culture that a CEO builds that says, we're going to do volume and we're the cheapest. That says, we're going to do not a lot of volume and we're the most expensive. We're going to do great work at really nice volume. Third option, right? You got to decide who you are as a company. What's your brand? What's it stand for? There's lots of successful people that do low-end stuff, fast, cheap, right? Just look at the difference in gardeners, right? You can get a gardener for an 1/8 of an acre lot for, $500 a month if they're just going to blow and go. You pay $2,000 a month if they're really tending to your flowers and edging the side and watching how everything works in your yard and clipping leaves on plants and there's a market for both. So I think the first thing you have to do to create customer service is understand what the promise is to the customer. Everybody doesn't have the same promise to the customer. And how do you instill that promise into your people so that they abide by it? I've always believed that being at the top end of things, charging a little more, allowed me to stand behind my mistakes because everybody makes mistakes, allowed me to hire better people. And it was up to us in the sales process to convince our customers, our end customers, of the value that we provide. And they start seeing that with customer service day one, right? Never miss appointments, right? Don't miss appointments. That's number one in home services. Don't miss appointments. Somebody has taken off work likely to wait on you, right? In our businesses, we try really hard to have 2-hour windows, not 4-hour. People have work, right? And we try really hard in the morning to have 1-hour windows because we're not yet backed up. In the afternoon, we can move to 2-hour windows.
Micah, can you turn down the AC, please? Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, good. So So I think customer service, the issue with customer service is first establish who you are, then get your people to buy in who you are, and then build your service to match who you are.
I think that that's huge for me, and like a lot of people hearing this is that a lot of people focus on just the shortcut, like how do I make the sale, how do I close the deal, how do I keep the profit, but they're not thinking about how do I get referrals from this customer, how do I, make this customer a raving fan. And the way it's done, as you're so eloquently explaining, is through that customer service, that process of from the first call to setting the appointment to making sure they show up on time to delivering on that product. In the home service industry, it's not easy to deliver on it either. Once the actual techs come out and they do the work, that's where a lot of problems can happen that I've experienced. So really fixing that customer service.
Customers want transparency.
Mm,
All they want. They want to know that you're telling them the truth,
mhm.
that you're communicating with them through the process. When you're wrong, admit it and fix it, no matter what it costs. And stay in touch with them after, because one day you might not just own a roofing company, you might own an HVAC company or a plumbing company or an electrical company. And that customer, when you've given them good customer service, the cost of acquisition of that customer is geometrically lower than going out on the web and trying to find a new customer or hoping somebody saw your truck.
Because you already have them.
You already have them. They already believe in you. You had the call center call them up before the appointment or text them before the appointment. You had the call center call them up or text them after the appointment. How was it, Mr. Johnson? Is there anything we could have done better? Thank you very much. Really appreciate you. Call us next time you need us. Great. Then begin a cadence on emails, sending them content. How to keep your, roof happy, how to maybe do something outside of roofs. Have you thought about, here's a nice little, tankless water heater for your consideration. We're not in that business, but we think it would be good for your home. People love to know that you're thinking about them when it doesn't benefit them. Doesn't benefit you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you value them as a human being and as a customer, and you value them beyond what you made your money off of. Very cost effective to do that today with content marketing, email marketing, to bring that sense and that truth and that feeling to a customer that you've done business with, that these are good people. If I need anything, I'm calling them.
Because you're that trusted source, that person, that brand that you've
right.
and you built.
You got to get your people to buy into that.
How do you personally handle like stress when you're scaling rapidly?
No. Stress is part of the deal. Don't be an entrepreneur if you can't eat it. You got to be able to eat more stress than anybody you know when you're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs, this great book by A. David Silver, he's probably written 30 books on entrepreneurs. Years ago, I was talking to him, and I said, what do you think characterizes all the entrepreneurs you've ever interviewed and written about, and you've done them all, from Fred Smith that started FedEx down to lowly old me when I was doing the vending machines? What is it that you find that all entrepreneurs have in common? He goes, all entrepreneurs have in common, huh? I said, yeah. He goes, I'll tell you. And he leans in and he says, irrational optimism. I said, wow, that's an interesting statement. You believe in your deal, and nobody can talk you out of that belief. Now, are you smart enough to make sure you get the kind of help that will execute that deal? You're smart enough to get the kind of finances that allow you to execute it. But no matter what, nobody will ever believe in you more than you. If you're a real entrepreneur, they can't talk you off the mountain. It's not possible.
You were speaking with the author of that book?
Yeah, he's a good buddy.
What was what's the name of the book or the?
I can't remember.
A.
But
Davidson.
A. David Silver. He's written so many books on entrepreneurship. He's really a good old school guy.
So you mentioned a lot about like mentors and people, and gave credit to a lot of people. Like, what is your take on mentorship and finding the right partners or people and people who've done it before?
Well,
and how did that help you?
I think people think of mentors as a pill. You get a mentor that's good and smart, swallow the pill, and everything will work out. Right? Mentors give advice. Leaders choose to take it or not take it, and always appreciate that they got it. You've got to be strong enough with enough of a vision and enough optimism that no matter who comes into your life and brings you stuff, you have the strength to say, that one's not for me. And you have the personality to ensure that the person that gave you that advice isn't offended when you don't take 100% of it. The king. An entrepreneur is the king or queen of their domain. Never want to lose because somebody else talked you into a bad decision. You want to win or lose based upon what you have chosen, how hard you have worked, how decisive you have been, and the team you've put around you. You will win or lose with that. You will not win or lose based upon what one person says. Now, here's how you do it, right? It's not true. So I had many, many mentors, right? None of which I would have a picture of them in my wall, right? Because I've had mentors that were low-level employees. I had a mentor at mp3.com that was the guard of one of our 2 buildings. And I watched with his grace every single day when we had hundreds of employees. When I would walk in behind people and they didn't see me, and they would treat him disrespectfully, right? I watched the grace with which he dealt. And one day I said to him, Jeremy, I've been watching now for a month. There's a lot of my people that I'm not happy with that don't treat you right. How do you deal with it? He said, I love my job. I love this company. I love the fact you care about that. There is no job that doesn't come without disrespect occasionally. And there is no job that doesn't come without stress occasionally. Mr. Richards, I'm thankful I have the job, and thanks for caring. I'll take care of it. You don't need to. Wow, that guy's incredible. He helped me with my grace, right? When people upset me, right, or did me wrong, I didn't lash out anymore, right?
You learn something from everyone.
Everyone is your mentor, good and bad. A keen sense of observation is a really important attribute to an entrepreneur. Lessons are flying all over the damn place all the time.
I want to know about this. Like, walk us through your first private equity deal. Like, how did you even get in that room?
Well, private equity is coming to home services, and it's coming 100 miles an hour. It's about 10% of the way it's going to be, right? Because these are wonderful businesses with a loyal customer bases, right? That don't go out of style and are needed by everyone. So appointments are needed by every single business in the world. Get my salesperson in front of someone to tell them how great my products are. And if you're good with data, and you're really good with data, you're going to get them in front of the right person at the right company that has a theoretical need for or a practical need for your product. Do the database work first, right? Once you get a formula and the TAM or the total addressable market's big enough, right? Then you can just keep eating more and more of it as long as you then develop a different skill, which is capital. Well, when you're really good, you run at some point, most people, unless you have these incredible 99% gross margin companies, right? That's why the tech guys became who they became, right? Their structure and their profit systems were unheard of, right? But, you get to a point in an industry, they find you, right? It's like you see today, where did all these Euro come from in pro basketball? They're unbelievable. Best 2-3 guys in the league are from Europe, right? How did they find them? People whose job it is to find people, find them. These are some of the smartest people on the planet. They got tons of money. They've been entrusted with tons of money. They find great companies. But you have to be a good enough entrepreneur to be findable. Do you do press releases? Do you show up at podcasts? Do you go to conferences and mix it up with people? I always love when somebody says, yeah, you got lucky. Somebody found you. God, they called you. That's not luck. I made myself visible, right? They find you if you make yourself visible. And their job is to put money to work. There's people who, private equity's job, who do minority investments if you don't care to sell control. There's private equity that only do majority investments, or control, they call it. There's private equity that only buys the whole company. And then they negotiate with you to roll some of your money back in so you can get a second bite at the apple.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was Lexi International, named after my daughter, one of the fastest, biggest telemarketing, certainly one of the top 6 or 7 biggest telemarketing companies at the time in the industry. And Fair Capital out of Washington, D.C., decided that they were going to go and start rolling up telemarketing companies. By the way, that's exactly what's happening right now in home services. We're in month 1 of home services. This is the beginning, right? And so they came to me, and I didn't know much about it. But remember, people would say, what's that old guy you brought into the telemarketing, Ron Davis? What's he do? I said, he talks to me. He helps me think through things.
This was your chairman?
Yeah. Remember the guy that bought half for $100,000?
Yeah.
Right? Well, he understood private equity. And he said, Robin, now's the time I'm really going to help you. He helped me negotiate. The associate on the deal was a gentleman named Rob Mahalik, who's now probably a billionaire. Started his own fund, Kinderhook Capital. We became friends. We've stayed friends. There's him and his twin brother, Chris. And networks. You constantly look out for smart, good people that you have an affinity for and them for you. And how can you grow together? You can't engage with people over and over and over and over again, trying to help them trying to help you, asking them for help, them asking you for help. Deliver, where eventually you don't find a reason to make money. Right? So that's why networks are so critical. They give you opportunities. And my network brought private equity and explained to me in a rudimentary way when I was young how it worked. Right? I became fascinated and said, They know the smartest people. They have the most amount of money. M&A is the fastest way to make revenue. They will help you with M&A once you get to a certain size, if that makes sense.
Merger and acquisition, right?
Yes, merger and acquisition. Buy 3 small companies in the home services business for 3, 4 times, 5 times EBITDA. Aggregated up to $5 or $10 million of EBITDA, and that 3 times valuation just became 10 or 15 or 20 times. So I call it EBITDA arbitrage. Try and put together as many small companies that they can't sell for more than they're selling for. They're not worth it. But when you put them together and put your systems in, and all of a sudden that profit, that $800,000 profit, right, is $4 million when you buy 5 of them.
Because you're combining all the revenue and putting it on one P&L, right?
You're getting rid of a lot of the expenses. I don't need 4 CFOs. I don't need 4 accountants. I don't need 4 heads of sale.
To put it all under one house.
Put it all under one house. And now I'm saving a lot on my overhead while I'm combining and creating a bigger brand with my company and making more top line and more bottom line, and should have more gross margins because I'm getting rid of a lot of the folks that could have gone into gross margin, right? So there's just incredible opportunity here. And the more you know, the more you know, right? And it helps you each time. But private equity is here to stay. A lot of people in new industries, I remember when I was in the telemarketing industry, and I've been watching it a little bit in the home services industry, a lot of people really poo-poo private equity.
Like they look down on it?
Oh, they think, oh, they're going to hurt them.
Oh, if they come in.
Yeah, they're going to come, they're going to take over, they're going to change everything. It's not going to be good. Private equity is like dentists or doctors. There's good ones and there's bad ones. If you get with a good private equity company that supplies capital and advice and helps organize you to put you in a professional place that you're worth more, that's good for your employees. You don't do any transaction that doesn't make your employees more stable, right? People think that employees are only after money. I don't agree with that. If they were only after money, they'd be entrepreneurs.
What are they after?
Stability, camaraderie, respect, and a fair wage with more wage when they provide more. It's a practical handshake between great leaders and people on your team. Do the right thing.
What does private equity look for in a company?
Well,
what do they really care about?
Each industry is different. Okay. So let's start with revenue growth. Did you grow double digits over last year? Total revenue. Take a look at that. That's a good. Get to 20, 30, or 40. That's a great thing. Right? But did you grow double digits at least?
When you say double digits, do you mean
10% or more?
Okay.
Did you grow with the same number of customers, more customers, or less customers? Did you lose a bunch of customers, but one came up big? That growth doesn't mean a lot. Did your customers all start buying more from you because you're a business that's repetitive, garage doors or swimming pools, and you thought of stuff like that, right? Or did you just take more market share? Did you get more customers at the same average ticket value, right? So they look at all of that, but you got to have the growth, and then you want smart growth. Did you really get bigger, or did one person just like you and buy a lot more? Next thing you got to do is look at gross margin. How much did it? So first thing is revenue growth, with some nuance underneath. The second thing is gross margin. Each industry has a gross margin. Like I say, some tech companies have 98% gross margin.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
In home services, because it costs nothing to deliver the product. The gross margin is calculated based upon how much does it cost you to service that, to get that revenue.
It's the cost of goods sold, right? Like all the things.
Yeah. Right. More than just that in there, and different people use different things. But, what's it cost me? What are my roofers cost? What are the trucks cost? What is the supplies cost to go on the roof? What does the manager for the roof? Some people put salesmen above the gross margin line. Some people put them below the gross margin line. Some people split it.
What's the correct way?
There is no correct way.
Okay.
It's just the consistent way. And each industry typically has one they like. I've noticed in the home services industry, they like sales commissions and sales salaries to be below the gross margin line. They want a pure understanding of what did it cost to deliver that $10,000 of revenue, right?
Yeah.
So, in roofing, you ultimately want to be at the low end of decent would be maybe 40. At the high end of great might be 50. And there will be some decent companies just shortly outliers. So they look at, is your gross margin what it's supposed to be like all the others in your industry? And if it's not, are you smart enough each quarter to incrementally tick it up so that they believe that you're going to get there? Right? The net margin. What's your net margin? Better have a minimum of a 10% net margin. If you really run a great operation and know how to deliver product, so your gross margin's high, you can get a 20% net margin in some of these home services businesses, right? One of the great operators, I know two great operators, Tommy Mello, right?
A1 Garage Doors.
Yeah, he understands gross margin. He understands how to deliver it and motivate those people to install and do their work and drive down the cost of each installation. Phenomenal operator, phenomenal motivator. Brandon Dickey, Conejo Valley. As good an operator and as good a motivator as you'll ever meet to drive gross margin up and the cost of installation down. So those are three things. And then the final thing is, and it's not the only thing, but the things they really look at. Retention. How many of your customers from last year were a customer this year? If I'm a plumbing company, better hope last year's customer was this year's customer too, because something went wrong with their plumbing or their electrical. If I'm a pool company, I better have 99% of the same checks coming from last year that I have coming this year, plus my growth. Roofing companies are a little more difficult because you don't need a roof every year, every 5 years. But can you do a maintenance program for a roofing company so that they can see the connectivity you have to the customer and count that as retention? So retention is critical. Concentration is critical in home services. What is your geographic concentration? Doesn't do me any good to do a deal down in Orange County, then do a deal in Ventura County, then do a deal in Denver, and then do a deal here. I'd rather do half as much money all in my market. I'll make more money.
Why?
Because it's too expensive to service. Home service businesses are route-based. People don't think of them that way, but they're route-based. It costs you a lot to drive a long way.
It's easy to drive to Newport Beach from Costa Mesa, but if you have to drive to Hidden Hills from Costa Mesa, that's what you're talking about, right?
How many deals can I do for the day? If you have a tech out doing 3-4 deals a day, 5 deals a day, if they drove to Costa Mesa, they're down to 1. The cost of servicing that revenue, and was high and your gross margin was low on that project. And you can't do that too often and build a valuable business. So concentration matters. And you also get a lot of bang for your buck and concentration from media, whether it be digital media, whether it be email. You get a lot of bang. There's word of mouth is true, right? And media in the same area. That's why people that do really cool trucks do well. Trucks are moving billboards, but as long as they're staying in the same area so that people see them 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times a week, bakes into their brain.
So tell me about an innovative company that you see in the home improvement industry right now.
Interesting. Well, innovation comes in a few ways, right? Product. Innovation comes in customer service innovation. Mm-hmm. Innovation can come in pricing innovation, right? Don't see a lot of product innovation in home services. I've seen 2. Edward, do you know Restores?
No.
The company, they're a wonderful company. Edward Azorian is the CEO. It's an unbelievable company. We do a fair amount of business with. Their restoration. He created a referrals app for all us contractors, if you will, right? Whether it be HVAC or here or there, because when you're in the restoration business, you need and he helps pay your people as they refer work, right? And they build up points, and it's a really cool little app. So that's one of the cool pieces of technology I saw in it. The most innovative thing, of course, was Service Titan. Built a platform for folks like us to use to run their business. They're a $10 billion market cap company.
It's crazy. They just went public recently.
Yeah. That's their market cap. That's their valuation, over $10 billion. 2 of the smartest brothers you'll ever meet, right? And they're going to do great things. There's Salesforce waiting to happen. And at $10 billion, they don't have to wait much longer. You have Ishmael Valdez, who's already had an exit. I think his company was Next Gen Heating and Air. He's now started a company called Nuve. Nuve is a thermostat that alerts the HVAC company that the equipment is underperforming. So they know it's going to break before the homeowner knows it's going to break, and they can call. It's sensor-based.
He's putting marketing right in the house. He's putting the contractor in the home.
Right. And he's doing great with that. Ishmael is a hard-driving guy. You've got Ken Goodrich, who's had some great exits.
Gettle, right?
Yeah, just a wonderful man. And Ken is started a new company called Kennerator, which is generators by Ken Goodrich. And he's going to use the same skills that built Gettle to begin to put generators at the speed of sound. And it's kind of a right time. All of our, electrical grids are bad and overtaxed, and AI is going to overtax them more, and generators are going to be, and lawsuits to the PG&E, and the rewards on a lawsuit are so big. You're going to start seeing power going off to every home much more frequently than it ever has in the past. So Ken Goodrich, real smart guy. He's going to do something really unique. I don't know. I think it's going to be in pricing, not product. And he's going to do something very, very unique with generators. Brandon Dickey at Conejo, he leads customer service. He's as good at customer service and the systems and the processes he puts in place as anybody. And he's got something real big coming out soon that we're going to watch for that I can't talk about yet, but it's going to be real big and real innovative. So
In-home services?
yes. And so, there's a bunch of folks that are, the way Tommy Mello uses his podcast, the way Tommy Mello does marketing, very innovative, right? Nobody's even close. And so you see a lot of great innovation in a lot of great areas.
I want to jump to this. What's the biggest failure of your career? And how close did it come to wiping you out?
I've had failures. Maybe 3. But I haven't had a failure that I would say could have wiped me out. Okay? Because pivoting is part of being a great entrepreneur. If you see there's no end at the end of the track, there's no there, you can keep going until you lose, or you can pivot and convince who's ever with you to pivot with you, including investors, to go after something else or another approach, right? So if you're not afraid to pivot and you're willing to take the stress, as you said earlier, and you're willing to take and be decisive about it, pivots are what save entrepreneurs when it's not working, right? Big pivots, little pivots, pivot. Constantly pivot until you find a repeatable revenue stream and profit stream.
Can you remember a time that you were ready to completely walk away from entrepreneurship and be done with it?
Never. And it might be because nobody would have hired me. The curse of being an entrepreneur is if you don't move to Silicon Valley, nobody kind of wants you after you're an entrepreneur. They don't want you to work for them. Why would they not want you to work for them? Because the person at the top there is the boss. You're used to being the boss. You like being the boss. You're decisive. Might not have worked. Those are traits that were inherent to you. Those are not great traits that fit into companies that want to go at a pace that you're not used to going. So it's hard to convert from an entrepreneur to an employee. You almost always go back.
So how do you personally use ChatGPT now?
I find I'm not using it to its maximum strength, but large documents boiled down to a few pages, that's a wonderful way to use ChatGPT. I'm about to embark on that in books that I should have read in my life but never did. I want 25 pages. Tell me what Moby Dick is in 25 pages, right? Give me some of the classics and break them down to 25 pages, right? So I'll do that. Grammar, email, all the typical stuff you might think, right? And when I'm writing something too long to somebody. Videos, potential logos, looking for information that the web can't give you, but AI can. Right? The web sends you to websites. Inside the websites is 90% of all the knowledge. AI, that librarian knows all the knowledge. Inside, outside, around, up, down, anything that's ever been printed, they know. So I'm going to get better and better at using it, but I'm a fair user right now.
What's your favorite prompt?
That's like saying, what's your favorite question? Right? I don't think I have a favorite prompt. One thing I will say is prompt engineers are going to be the next group that replace entry-level coders. They're going to get replaced. Instead of becoming an entry-level coder, you'll probably see that in the jobs report. It looks a little down in tech. starting to AI doesn't need entry-level coders. They need prompt engineers. And those folks will then get recalibrated and retrained to be prompt engineers because there's a shortage of those. And there's too many entry-level coders. So I think the ability to clearly understand the AI platform that you're using, because they all gather data differently, and the ability to properly, succinctly, and cover a lot, ask the prompt, ask the question, is a critical skill that America does not have a lot of. The world doesn't have a lot of, but it's going to be, you're going to see 25-year-old kids making many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because they become great prompt engineers.
Do you think that AI is going to replace jobs or create opportunities for entrepreneurs?
Well, that's the age-old question of technology, right? When Henry Ford invented, right, the assembly line, everybody said that's the end of workers. No, it isn't. It's the efficiency of workers. And some workers had to change how they did it to a new way to do things, right? When email came to be, they said, oh my God, you're going to put every single person that works in the fax world out of business. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of people without a job. Nah. Technology creates opportunity because technology stimulates innovation. Innovation attracts capital. Capital attracts entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs hire people. Crazy cycle that will never end. It's very short-lived, the impact it has on total employment.
What's the difference from an entrepreneur who caps out at 1 million versus one who goes to 100 million?
Skill. Understanding that you can't do everything. The ability to hire right and let them do their job. Become a reports-based KPI CEO, key performance indicator CEO, as opposed to a CEO that tells everybody what to do. Understand when your people have been bypassed by the volume and complexity of the numbers and the size, and find good people that have worked for you and convince them that that is indeed what's happened and that they need to come over here and work here now. That's a big piece of your job, right? But decisiveness and the ability to recognize talent and the ability to attract more capital. You have to have all those skills to go to 100 million. Very few people can do it just on brute strength.
What do you you personally spend money on to help you grow as an entrepreneur?
I think my time of life, right? It's more about investing in new industries and meeting the entrepreneurs and seeing what they're doing and learning. And I think in doing that, I become better, right? If you have time to listen to some podcasts, those are always usually useful when you find one that brought you great content. Getting better is a pursuit. It's not osmosis. It doesn't just come your way. So
if you had to start from scratch today, no money, no contacts, nothing, how would you do it?
Today, I would go into home services. Back in the day, when I started on the internet and I started with telephony, right? It was the first inning. Right? MP3 brought sound to the internet, not music. Way more important than just music. It brought sound, voice, So transformational stuff is going to happen, and it's too tough to do it if there isn't a wind at the back of an industry. So I look around when I'm making investments. I said, is there wind in the sails of this industry? And is there opportunity? And what does that opportunity look like? Right? And can I find partners that are willing to let me in, realize that I'm not going to be overbearing, and that one and one will make 4, 5, 6, 7, then that's an industry I want to be in. And I think home services is that industry right now.
What's next for you? Another $1 billion company or more philanthropy?
Well, I think I can do both because I don't operate anymore, right? I advise more than I operate. I'm a pretty involved advisor. I think more investments. I think I'm doing one that's really fascinating. I'm doing two that are really fascinating. One, synthetic skin. That's by a real smart person. There's 124 burn centers in America. There are about 88% of all skin is donated skin, but 12% and growing really fast is synthetic skin. And I hooked up with a brilliant woman, Daria Kelter, with a company called Labs, LABS, Los Angeles Biosciences, that is at the forefront of creating some really cool new product in this arena. So Brandon Dickey, I'm fortunate to work with, and home services is a passion of mine right now. I've just met, like I say, these incredible folks in home services that understand capitalism, that understand, finance. You take a look at, the Brothers era at Service Titan. You take a look at Tommy Mello, even Ishmael. You take a look at Brandon Dickey. You take a look at Edward Nazarian, and you're going to find people that are going to change things and are going to really win in this game. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find entrepreneurs that are going to win whether I'm there or not, but I can make their winning a little faster and a little easier. But they're going to win whether I showed up in their life or not. And that's what you want. I have a wonderful company in Tad Health down here, by the way, with all the behavioral health and mental health challenges that COVID created. Our K through 12 children are really struggling. And there's money to pay for more counseling if the schools knew how to access that money from the insurance companies, from the state. And so Tad Health has built a platform to help schools and the providers of these psychosocial services the ability to access payment for each and every single solitary session. And that company is going to be a huge company. And then I think, my final company that I'm fairly involved with, brilliant leader, Matt Miller, and Lifeline. They go around the country and they do ultrasounds to make sure, and they do pinpricks and they sign people up, and he's got hundreds of thousands of people already that sign up for an annual product visit where that they can check on their health, because you're going to have to take your health care just like you took your safety, just like you take your money into your own hands. You can no longer count on only insurance companies and only the government and only the police to protect you and to service you. So I think a big next thing is going to be healthcare, and how people and the entrepreneurs that deliver opportunity for people to take care of their health where the insurance companies won't. You're going to start spending a little bit of money on that.
If you had to predict what's the next $1 trillion industry entrepreneurs should jump into?
Well, I think we're sitting in it, and it hasn't even begun to hit its stride, and that's AI. AI application hasn't even begun. Very small. So what kind of entrepreneurs are going to find a way to replace using large language models, cost, accelerate opportunity, and create new businesses with AI? That's going to be fascinating to watch. There's going to be handfuls of $1 trillion companies. Handfuls. I think there is no reason that the internet, a second one, there's no reason that we can't get online everywhere in the world. Right? Starlink's going to solve that. Or a Starlink competitor. Right now it looks like Starlink's going to solve that. Bringing that kind of knowledge and access to knowledge to 7 billion people, the ingenuity that will arrive out of that is unthinkable. And the jobs and if the government stays out of the way a little bit, the action that will happen worldwide because of the ingenuity, right? That AI is going to allow to happen is going to be unbelievable. That healthcare is going to allow to happen is going to be unbelievable. So there's lots of industries that are going to get really impacted.
Where can people find you, follow your journey, or invest alongside you?
Well, I'm not a podcaster, although I love listening to podcasts, especially yours.
I appreciate you coming on.
But so I'm not a followable guy. I don't use much social. I'm not trying to build an audience. So unfortunately, I'm not followable because there's nothing to follow. And businesses, just like when you're looking for the next great baseball player, you'll find them if you go to the Dominican. You'll find them. You're looking at the next great basketball player, you're going to find them if you go to not only the inner cities, but Europe. You'll find them. Businesses pop up and funders find them. And so I will be looking in home services right now for all the great companies that are popping up. And you know, the problem with an invitation to contact is customer service problem. If you're a polite human being, that means you've got to spend lots of hours a day replying to that contact. And I don't have that time right now. But, you know, robinдрichards@gmail.com. But I'm going to warn you in advance that I'm not going to be quick. But I love it, and I'm very. This industry needs more people doing this, talking about the industry, bringing in entrepreneurs, stimulating home services, and is in its golden age.
Mr. Richards, that was powerful. I appreciate you pulling back the curtain and sharing your real journey, the wins, losses, mindset, and the strategy. This is the kind of conversations that move people forward. And I know this one will stick with our audience. Thanks for tuning in to Built to Scale. If you got value from today's episode, do me a quick favor, subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone building something great. Your support helps the show grow and makes it easier for me to bring on even bigger names and incredible guests here like Robin Richards. So thank you. Follow me at Quinn Vincent on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok for daily behind the scenes, insights, and momentum to fuel your journey. Until next time, keep building, keep believing, and remember, legacy isn't given, it's built.